I'd just like to thank the Apps for Good program for letting me speak about a bit about the user experience. So yes, my name is Yaseed. I'm an experience designer, and what that essentially is, it's my job to design products to make lives a little bit easier for people and just to make useful kind of products. And I started off as a visual designer, and then I was a bit more intrigued as to how the brain works and to kind of, why things are the way things are and how do we make better and easier products. I've been a mentor for the Apps for Good program almost about a year, and I've ran about 5 sessions. And what was interesting to see was that the kids who are building their apps are facing the same problems as big multinational corporations when it comes to the creation of apps and the user experience. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to just take some time to go back to the basics and just to create some things that I hope that you'll find a bit useful. So let's start off with the question is, what is a great user experience? And to answer this, I'll tell a story, and it's about my grandmother. So she came over from South America last year, and she's 80 years old. She just uses the computer for emails, and then I just thought, wouldn't it be great if I just put an iPad in front of her and see what happens? And so she picked up the iPad, and she could use it straight away. She had no problems. She could, find the mail, and she was sending an email, and she was even drawing a picture of a house in a tree. So for me, that is the definition of a great user experience, is that someone can actually just pick up something and know how to use it without even knowing or being taught how to do it. So for me, that's a great user experience. The 3 things that I'm going to talk about are the 3 things that make up a good product, and it's for it to be useful, usable, and desirable. So it has to be useful. It has to have a goal. It needs to serve a purpose. So for the user, they'll get something out of it. It has to be usable. So I mean, it's pretty easy, but it has to be easy to use, intuitive. So you don't have to think too much. It just works. And desirable. Now, desirable is the thing that makes you want to use it. So it's easy to have the first 2, but unless you want to use it, you're probably not going to use it. So I can show you this here. So which one would you like to use? Would you like to use the one on the right, which is a bit spiky and chunky, or would you like to use the one on the left, which is all thin, smooth? So this is the desirable. So which one would you want to use again and again and again? It's probably going to be the one on the left. So what I thought is I would talk a bit about how to go about creating the user experience. So we're going to create an app together right here. Well, I've made it already, but we'll talk through it. And I'm just going to talk about the just one of the things, and I'm just going to talk about how to make it useful. And then other talks, maybe we'll talk about other stuff. But it's important to go back to the first one and make sure that it's useful for people. And so this is our app that we're going to create, and it's going to be a food app. So, you go to the supermarket, and you don't know if a food item is healthy or not. It's got the traffic lights, but you don't know what that means, and how many calories do you need to burn it off. So, wouldn't it be great if there could be an app that you go to the supermarket and you do that? So this is the app that we're going to make. Here's one I made earlier, it's some wireframes. So the app is, it's an iPhone app. You can go to the supermarket, you can scan it, it will tell you how many, what the sugar content is. You keep scanning and scanning and scanning, and it will tell you what your whole daily usage. I know, why don't we put GPS on it so it knows what supermarket I'm in, so it knows where I'm buying it. And what else? We can add in some social features, so I can share it to my friends, so my friend knows what I'm eating, and I know what they're eating. What else can we add to this? Why don't we add a camera, so it has like augmented reality, so that I can see things. Is there anything else I can get out of phone to add to this app? I don't know. I'm pretty sure we can add Bluetooth and other whizzy features. But does that actually make a good user experience? Because, we've got an app, and I've just added a whole lot of features just because I know the phone can actually do it. But we need to go back to the core thing. So what is the core user need, right? So in our app. It was to actually create something that someone could just know what the kind of the food is healthy and how to work it off, right? So that was the core thing that we defined. We just added a whole lot of things, but that was the core need. So what we really need to do is go back to the basics and think about all the features, the QR code, the GPS, and the maps. Does it address this core user need? It probably doesn't, right? So we can just create a much streamlined version of the app, just focusing on one thing, and that is to actually be able to tell you what is in the food. So the other piece of, the other facet to that is just pick one thing and just do it really well, right? So instead of adding loads of different things, QR codes, augmented reality, just pick one thing. So I'm just going to pick a planner, for example, or even the camera, and I'm going to spend all my time that I have on this app just to do that one thing, and I'm going to do it really well. And when it goes out into the wild, and then I can study how people use it, and then I can build and change things as I wish. So I'm not saying don't think of anything, all the whizzy features that you could ever do on the app. It's just think about when you can deploy it. So it doesn't need to be right at the beginning. You can just do the basics first, address that core user need, and then we can start adding to it. So let's go through some examples. So this is Clear. This is Clear for the iPhone. It's a to-do app. It's the most basic to-do app, right? You can just do it, and it has fancy colors, and then you can move them up and down, and it's all based on your finger gestures. So if we go back to that number 1, 2, 3, is it useful? Yes, everyone needs a to-do app, and it addresses that core user need of reminders. Is it usable? I mean, there are no buttons there. It just tells me what I need to do. And is it desirable? I'd say so. It's pretty jazzy. It's got some cool colors, and they can change it. So they tick the 1, 2, and 3. And to go through the user, the user need is to actually, to be able to do something, to be able to remind yourself. And there are other apps out there that do more jazzy things, like I can set a GPS locator, so when I walk into the building, it vibrates and says, you need to do this. Or I can set up little groups of people, so then we can have group to-do lists. But this app doesn't do any of that. This app just says, look, you just need to do one thing, and we're just going to do it well. And that's why it's so successful. The other one I'm going to talk about is Instagram. So Instagram, we all know, is just a photo sharing tool. And you just take a photo. It had when it first came out, about 5 filters to make it look a little bit cool. And you can just share it with your friends. That was the only thing you can do. You can't crop, you can't rotate, you can't Photoshop, you can't do any of those things. It's just simply take a photo and it goes up. And that's all it is. And years later, it's exactly the same. They've just concentrated on one thing, and they've done it well, and they've just rolled out on different devices. So, I mean, it's even though I'm saying this, I mean, the big players, Google says this as well. So you just focus on the core user need. What is it that they want to do? And just focus on one thing for now. And the second one is just pick one thing and just do it really, really well. So when I was working in Argentina, I was working for a company on a system to help kids with vaccinations in the government for the Ministry of Health. And it was a mobile system, and we didn't actually even do smartphones or anything. We started with the core user need, which was to remind people when to go for vaccinations. And it wasn't a cool, snazzy application or smartphone app. All it was a text-based thing. So you text, and they would text you back, those 140 characters, or like a message now it's called. So that's what we did. We just started with the basic thing, and then we learned how people use it. So it was in the wild, and we kind of saw how they might adopt it, and then we started rolling out the smartphone apps, and then you could have a visual kind of progress. So the cool thing for the App for Good program as well is to kind of just to go back to these principles and think about it, because it was interesting when I was doing some of the talks. I was mentoring some of the classes who they had such a great app, as in it was sophisticated, it had all the wireframes, the user journeys, everything was planned out. It was they ticked every single box. But the core element, the core idea wasn't very solid because they just put a lot of features to kind of just to compensate. And it was a great app, but other apps could do other things. The more interesting apps, so the other groups I mentored, they had just a very cool idea. They didn't have any jazzy wireframes. They didn't have any, well, they did, but they didn't have the thought-out process and the scenarios. They just had one idea, and that was strong enough to go through, because that's the one that you say, I concentrate on one thing, and I'm just going to do one thing really well. I'm not going to put the GPS. I'm not going to put the QR codes. I'm not going to do anything else. So my takeaway is just basically something that Google said, but it's what the industry is kind of adopting. Just go back and think about that core user need, that one thing that people want to do, and then just pick one feature and just do it really, really, really well. And with that, you can make change happen. So thank you very much.